Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something, well, pretty common, I think, that feeling when you're trying to speak English. You know what to say.
But it just doesn't come out fast enough.
Exactly, that lag in conversation. So, we've got some interesting stuff from our source today, really focused on helping our listeners, train their brains to respond quicker. Our mission here is to pull out some practical, really actionable tips to boost that conversational speed.
Yeah, it's all about making that connection between understanding and actually speaking smoother, more efficient. And some of the strategies are, well, surprisingly simple but effective.
Okay, let's get into it. The first one that jumped out was using ready-made phrases.
Ah, yes.
The source mentions memorizing things like, that's a good question, or, let me think about that. Maybe. I'm not sure, but maybe. It sounds a bit like a shortcut, doesn't it?
It does, but think of it more like conversational scaffolding or breathing room, maybe.
Breathing room, how so?
Well, instead of freezing up when someone asks you something unexpected, you have a go-to phrase. It buys you a few valuable seconds.
Okay.
Your brain gets that moment to actually process and, come up with something thoughtful, not just panicked. And they're super versatile phrases, too.
Right, you could use them almost anywhere. That makes a lot of sense, actually. A little mental pause button.
Exactly.
Okay, next up is this idea of thinking in English. The source suggests starting small, just describing your surroundings in English internally.
Yeah, like looking around your room and just naming things or describing what you see at the window.
It sounds really basic. How does that daily habit actually help speed up replies in a real conversation?
It's about cutting out the middleman, essentially, the translation step. If
Uh,
you're constantly thinking in your native language and then translating, that takes time, adds delay. By practicing thinking directly in English, even about simple things, you start building more direct mental pathways.
So the connection becomes more automatic.
Precisely. Your responses naturally become quicker over time because you're reducing that translation lag. You're building mental muscle memory for English thought.
Hmm, interesting. Okay, this next one sounds a bit intense. Practice with speed.
Ah, the 30-second challenge.
Yeah, doing like a 30-second nonstop speaking thing on simple topics, and crucially, not worrying about mistakes. That feels counterintuitive, maybe, focusing on speed over getting it right.
Well, the goal here isn't accuracy, not primarily anyway. It's about building speaking stamina and flow.
Gemini.
Yeah, getting your mouth and brain comfortable with producing continuous English speech. It forces you past the hesitation point, that point where you stop because you're searching for the perfect word or grammar.
So it's like breaking through a barrier.
Kind of. It's about getting used to the feeling of speaking continuously, reducing those pauses. Think of it like interval training for speaking. Short bursts to build up overall endurance and speed.
Okay, got it. And then there's listening. The source talks about listening more actively, like watching shows, listening to, well, deep dives like this one.
Right, immersing yourself in the language.
How does just listening make us speak faster?
It's about input shaping output. When you hear a lot of natural flowing English conversation, your brain absorbs the rhythms, the intonation, the common collocations, how people naturally respond.
Subconsciously.
Largely, yes. You start to internalize these patterns. So when it's your turn to speak, your brain has more readily available models to draw from, making processing and generating your own response quicker. You get a feel for the music of the language.
Makes sense. And the last point really hit home for me, this mindset shift.
Ah, fluency over perfection, yes.
Yeah, realizing that conversation is mostly about connection, and it's better to say something imperfectly than to just stay silent.
Absolutely critical. So many learners get paralyzed by the fear of making mistakes.
I know I have.
We all do sometimes. But understanding that the primary goal is communication, getting your message across, it lifts a huge weight. Imperfect communication is still communication. Silence isn't.
And that willingness to speak, even imperfectly, leads to more practice.
Which leads to improvement in both speed and accuracy over time. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it, how much potential conversation gets lost to that fear of a tiny grammatical error.
Definitely food for thought. So, okay, quick recap from this deep dive. Use ready-made phrases for thinking time.
Practice thinking directly in English to cut translation lag.
Do speed drills, like the 30-second speaking, to build stamina.
Listen actively to absorb natural patterns.
And crucially, shift your mindset. Aim for connection and fluency, not impossible perfection.
Exactly. All very practical steps anyone can start with.
Right. So for everyone listening, the challenge from this deep dive is maybe just pick one, just one of these to try out.
Could be those phrases, could be trying to think in English for 5 minutes today.
Yeah, or even just trying that 30-second speaking burst. See how it feels.
Yeah.
Notice if it makes a difference, even a small one, to your speed or just your confidence in speaking.
Because those consistent little efforts, they really do add up. They build momentum towards more fluent, faster conversation.